Okay, so here we are. We're beginning to prepare, because when I say prepare, we could be preparing for a lot of things, but I'm talking about, the floods, because we have floods even before some major engagements. Now, the major engagement I'm talking about is the Lagdo Dam. As you know, it's been in the news that the dam is going to be necessary to release water from the dam that's in neighboring Cameroon. So this has sort of elicited fear that what? I mean, even without that dam being open, we have our issues with flood. And so everybody is sort of concerned. But we are being assured that there is no cause for alarm because it will be a controlled sort of opening of the dam, so to speak, and that this is absolutely necessary. Now, let's talk about this, hoping that nothing goes wrong. There's no reason for anything to go wrong, seeing as all the professionals and indeed all the agencies concerned are monitoring it very, very closely. Let me quickly tell you about our guest this morning. Joining us remotely is Mr. Desmond Majiakodumi. He's an environmentalist. He's been on our program before. He's chairman of Lekki State Urban Forest and Animal Initiative. Thank you very much, Mr. Majiakodumi, for making time for us again this morning.
It's my pleasure.
All right, then. And in studio, directors, for some funny reason, gave you a preview, but okay, now you have him in full. We got our Dr. Femi Okeoso-Intolu. He's the permanent secretary in the LASEMA, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. And he's in full regalia. It seems to say to me that when I say full regalia, I mean, he's taking no prisoners in terms of the efficiency that should be brought to this operation and further reassure us that all is well and that there is no reason to be unduly fearful. Yes, indeed. Okay, we're going to come back to that. But in the meantime, let's put out a background report that has gone out already on how seriously things are going and how much in hand they actually are.
The federal government on Monday confirmed that Lagdo Dam has been opened by the Cameroonian authorities and that all the frontline states may experience flooding within the next 7 days. It is a matter of grave concern that had prompted the first collaborative meeting between the Ministers of Water Resources, Environment and Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The aim is to find a solution to the perennial flood problems in Nigeria. The ministers acknowledge it is a collective responsibility and the bulk of the work is at the state and local government levels. They want individuals also to take preventive measures such as clearing drainage and keeping their environment clean.
We are going to be working with the state government and even the local governments to provide this temporary shelter for them. This is part of the humanitarian intervention in those areas. Of course, we had mentioned other interventions, including food and the rest of them. State governments have actually been responsive. However, it has not been very adequate to cater for all the persons affected. And so we are encouraging the Nigerian Governors Forum to step up on its actions.
Removing unwanted structures that are blocking waterways and also keeping the environment clean to reduce the menace of flooding, as the government at its own end is putting 1 or 2 measures in place for total eradication of this flooding.
We are issuing hourly warning alerts on floods, not only with respect to the River Benue, but in most parts of the country, including River Niger, and even in the south of Nigeria, we're issuing hourly alerts.
The ministers are quick to assure that the water level is not a threat yet, and that measures are just being put in place should rain volumes increase. The meeting has now gone into a closed-door session where they will come up with recommendations to be forwarded to President Bola Tinubu on efforts to mitigate and prevent further flood disasters in Nigeria. Moya Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, thanks to Moya. As I said, that report went out earlier. So let me start with you, Mr. Desmond Majekodumi. How concerned are you? Because you see, the pictures that illustrate that report, those are areas that are quite close to the river whose dam has been opened. They say it's principally River Benue. How concerned are you or not? Because it does look pretty sort of the kind of thing emergency services would take a great interest in. As you could see, 3 ministers have come together to say that the matter is in hand. Give me your impressions on the need to open this thing and the danger it could portend.
Yes, yes. Well, it's not the first time. It's been done on a regular basis over the years. When the rains fall a bit too heavily during a short space of time across the border, then they have to release some of the water from that excessive rainfall. And we did have some very disconcerting and unfortunate incidents in the past when too much water was released too quickly. And it then now caused flooding, particularly in the floodplains. However, this time, even though I do believe that the actual official warning from the Cameroonian government came to us a little bit late, we have been very, very proactive. I am very impressed that at the inaugural meeting of the Mr. President's Council of Ministers, I think that was probably one of the first instructions that was given, that we need to have a coalition of ministries within government, and this needs to be addressed immediately. And we can see that the minister is on board right away. The various ministers that are concerned with this, Minister of State for Environment and Minister of Emergency Services and all that. And then, of course, to see our very own NEMA right there, as you said, battle ready, fully equipped to handle it, you know. And they've actually done wonderful work in the past. I must, throw salute and give all kudos to the NEMA people. They've saved lives. They have. However, as they say, prevention is better than cure.
Indeed.
Once this is now an emergency, the water is coming, we can't slow it. We need to do the right thing to make sure, at least by next year, that even if they release a lot of water, we won't have any flooding at all. So I'm very happy that government have acted so quickly on this, and we pray that the action shall be, the words that they're saying shall be translated into very rapid action.
Indeed. Thank you for that opener. And in talking about prevention there, one of the numerous agencies that no doubt are keeping a very, very close eye on all of this is LASEMA. That's the Lagos State Emergency, because, Emergency Management Agency. And Dr. Femi Okeosointolu is permanent secretary there, heads the place up. So prevention. You normally, people are very used to hearing from you in terms of, a lot of accident clearings and that kind of a thing. But now this is different. You're moving into another aspect of your job that we don't always get the opportunity to see, which is prevention, right?
Well, you see, firstly, let me emphasize that LASEMA, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, is a coordinating agency in terms of management of emergency in Lagos State. And the beauty of it is that instead of us emphasizing on the response and intervention aspects of emergency management, we are looking at managing emergency holistically to make it effective and efficient. And with that, we emphasize more on early warning mechanism and disaster risk reduction. And with that, you will discover that the impacts of all these hazards has greatly reduced, because you look at it holistically, you look at the planning, you look at the preparedness, and the clear motto is be prepared. And when you look at this type of mechanism that we are using is more of people-oriented mechanism. So you carry the vulnerable people along. You carry out sensitization, you carry out advocacy, you carry out clear, holistic diagnosis of what is happening and how you are going to handle it. Look at the fraud prediction that we have made. We made a motto clear out that be prepared. And with that, we assure the good people of Lagos State that they should not panic.
You know, I beg your pardon, Mr. Majekodumi was talking there about the warning time.
Yes.
You know, and that although it was a bit short, however, you appear, it would look that we would appear to have sort of reacted to the situation properly. First of all, your commentary on, is there ever enough, sufficient length of time in terms of these kinds of potential disasters?
Well, when you are looking at the warning aspect that Dr. Majekodumi was talking about, he was talking in terms of...
Mr. Majekodumi.
Mr. Majekodumi was talking about. It was talking in terms of the federal level. But at the state level, we commence early warning signs. We make sure that in all our local government, we have early warning mechanism units. We have local emergency response units, and we have what we call the local emergency management committee. Now, the importance of this is that you have to carry the society along. And you see, the planners are very important. The people are very important, because you must ensure that they know what they are vulnerable to. They must be committed into the actions that you want to take.
Those that are going to be the most vulnerable are going to be those. Lagos is one of the coastal states in the country.
Definitely.
That are going to, you know, it will impact them. And, you know, sometimes, I don't know what your experience is, but people don't usually always like to move, even though they know the reason. We've seen it not just in Nigeria. What was your experience like in that regard? Because you saw the pictures that we sort of started with. So you saw the floods, which must be from the heightened level of water.
Okay, number one, as a disaster manager, I don't like talking about state per se. I talk about where are we going to feel the impacts? Who are going to be vulnerable? So when I'm talking now in terms of 256 local governments are vulnerable to this. Now, the most important thing about all this is the attitude of our people, their orientation. So as a disaster manager, you must work on their orientation, because...
Were you able to do that?
Yes. You know, we have local knowledge, local belief. We go to church, we carry them along. Okay, they can see it. We have a lesson learned, because we have statistics about those people that were affected.
Forgive me for doing this, interrupting you, butting in like that, but I must go on a break now. I'll come straight back and we'll continue where we left off. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
I miss them.
Well, they should be on their way by now.
Will it feel like it used to? With everyone so busy these days.
It will be fine.
Suddenly, she passes right.
Clear lineup! Single file!
Grandpa, what was Grandma like?
She always found ways to bring us all together.
Devon Kings, taste that brings us all together.
Okay, welcome back. And our guest this morning, Mr. Desmond Majekodumi, an environmentalist, and Dr. Femi Osanyintolu, Permanent Secretary at NEMA. And he was just telling us, maybe giving us an idea of the experience of you know, in addition to warning people, trying to move them to safety, and how easy that has been?
Yeah, I'm talking in terms of that these people that are vulnerable too, they have their beliefs. They have their historical beliefs. Some of them will tell you that, oh, they've been living in this area for a very
but so it's a human problem.
It is a human
But you know that, God forbid, everybody could drown in that place.
Yes, but the point is this.
People think it won't be as bad as it's been.
That is it. The point is this: as a disaster manager, you must try as much as possible to carry the people along, change their orientation, their attitudes towards things. And because in Lagos State, you discover that despite the fact that the topography of Lagos State makes us vulnerable to flood, you will discover that 80% of flood we normally experience in Lagos State is more flash flood. Because we've changed our infrastructure, we've carried urbanization, we carry the city planners along. The way we are building our houses are different. You can see that the building controlling agency, they are on top of their game. How the building code are really complied with. And we carried out what we call sensitization, advocacy, and with that, the mindset of good people of Lagos State now has greatly reduced the impact of all these floods in Lagos State. And that is why we are saying in Lagos State.
That is with flash floods that Lagos has been used to. But this is not really that, is it?
Yeah,
this is
it's part of it. Okay. It's part of it. Because, you see, apart from that, they are going to release water from the dams
in a controlled
in a controlled way. There is still going to be raining.
Exactly.
So it's two things that we are managing
at once. Let me take this point, Dr. Mike. No, you getting me calling Mr. Maya? Called me Dr. Maya. Called me now, Dr. Osanyitolu. Let me take this point to Mr. Madia Kodumi. The water. The rain that is continuing. What is the part of that expression, climate change, that we hear quite often? Did this catch us by surprise, or is it something that we can expect in these days of climate change having a negative sort of an impact on our environment?
Now we're touching into the heart of the matter, and the reality is that the climate globally and locally is changing very rapidly and dramatically in a way that has never ever happened on this earth as far as our records go. And we have records that can go back eons upon eons through the deep ice samples. When you take deep ice that's kilometers deep and then you melt it, you then have a record of what the climate was at that time, 1 million years ago. And it's never changed as rapidly as it is changing right now. And that is why this July 2023 was recorded as the hottest month ever recorded by humanity, ever recorded. Now, what is more alarming is not even so much that we have gone to this high peak, but that it was predicted by the scientists. Over 25 years ago, they made it very clear that if we continue polluting the atmosphere the way we are, using this incredible miracle of creation atmosphere like a rubbish dump and pouring millions and millions and millions of tons of these greenhouse gases in there, this is what would happen. The only thing is, they predicted that it wouldn't happen until maybe around 2033, 2034. It happened 10 years earlier than they predicted. And this is very worrisome indeed. And we just thank God for the proactiveness of the people like my brother there in Lasema. They are doing a wonderful job saving lives. But the rains will be coming more heavily because it is a simple fact of science that if you heat water, the water will evaporate. If you have more heat, you have more evaporation, more rain. And that rain falls in a short period of time. You have now what they classify as rain bombs. Rain bombs. Massive amounts of rain will just fall. And we are not prepared for that. We are not prepared for that. I repeat it. We're not prepared. And there's a lot of things that need to be, a lot of things that have to be done. If we love ourselves, if we love our children, love ourselves, we have to do these things. The rivers, the streams, we've been filling them up, they're silting up. Why are they silting up? Because we've been cutting down trees along the embankments and so on. There's no vegetation to hold the soil in place. The soil is now pouring into the stream, so even their capacity to carry water is less. So the questions have to be asked. Why weren't these streams and rivers dredged? Why weren't the embankments allowed to have the growth of the various trees and plant life that had always been there? Nature had a perfect system. Nature had a perfect system for adapting to when the extra rainwater would fall. And we're damaging that system. And the rains are going to be falling heavier. So it's an alarm call. We just pray that, this year we won't have too much of tragedy because of the flood. But the more floods are coming, heavier rains are coming.
Indeed. And you were talking earlier, Femi, about preparedness.
Yes.
But it's not an easy task. How can you prepare for nature? Because we are developing, there's development at the same time. There's urban development, man-made structures are now prominent where there didn't used to be any. Mr. Majekodumi was talking there about nature as a perfect system. It sort of has made allowances for itself. But then when man now intervenes, we need this structure here. We need this developmental aspect here. The repercussions, he's talked about silting, for example. Why are there no continual dredging, if indeed you agree with that? When you talk about preparedness, and that is what agencies like yours are moving into, so how well have they done in the circumstances?
I will say we've done very well. That's what we call early warning mechanism being put in place, disaster risk reduction being put in place, and the kind of what we are doing is people-oriented. And we are seeing the results. If we make sure that our emergency management is more of empirical. If you look at the statistics about what happened in 2001, you will discover that the impacts of flood in 2001 was very devastating. And if you look at our statistics by 2005, 2010, 2012, you will discover that what we are doing, we are getting it right. But however, we still need to continue doing it and fine-tuning it and ensure that we are managing emergency of all this holistically. Now, look at the impact. For example, look at what we did in terms of the settling. We have primary and secondary canals and tertiary. What we did is clear, is that, look, you local government have some gangs that will take care of channelization in your local government. The states has their own gangs. Then we did a timetable, a robust timetable, to ensure that what they are doing in the local government, they are doing it simultaneously to what we are doing in the states.
Thereby improving drainage.
Thereby improving drainage.
Safe.
Yes. And again, we've commenced meeting. I've commenced visitations of all the local government to check their challenges and to sort their challenges out. Where some people, one way or the other, they are causing a problem, we quickly tackle it out. And we ensure that all the principal actors at the state level are well known to the principal actors at the local government. For example, if the Etiosa local government are having problem in terms of environmental challenges, instead of, one man build a house obstructing flow of water, you can easily call anybody. You can easily call our number. You can call emergency number. You can take pictures and send it to our WhatsApp number, and within 24 hours, we take action. And we carried out the Ministry of Justice along. And with that, you can see what we've done, which is very unique. We make sure that the city planners, the urban renewal method, physical planning, building controlling agency, environment, and emergency manager work together in terms of safety of life and properties. This is unique.
Indeed, but dredging is, first of all, dredging is expensive. However, it is something that needs to be done. So I wanted to ask the question that, look, in terms of the safety of the people, do you think the pace of dredging could be heightened, or you are, quite frankly, in a scientific way, are satisfied with the level of dredging that
we
is
are.
ongoing?
There's ongoing. The Ministry of Environment is doing their best. In fact, in Lagos,
is the best enough?
Yes,
because
it's enough. The point is this. The point is this.
That's why I said it was expensive.
One thing you can't take away from the Lagos state government under the watch of Mr. Governor is that, one, despite the topography, the location of the state has no control over all these rivers because Ogun River drains into Lagos. So what we did is that we are dredging all rivers that are not located within the Lagos state territory. In Ogun State,
we
have to do that.
You actually have to do that.
Yes. So
because sometimes the canals are overrun. All you just need is a very heavy downpour, and all of Lagos knows about it.
Yes, and we are carrying out enlightenment that people should not jump into the canal.
Yes.
We are carrying out a serious enlightenment,
and that there are hazards.
And the most important thing, we are carrying out two things together: enlightenment and enforcement. And we ensure that, one, the type of what we are doing is people-oriented. We ensure that the political will is there. We ensure that local government, where the impacts are going, they are taking ownership of it.
Okay, just taking Lagos as an example, because that's where you superintend over.
Definitely.
Now, I was just going to ask that, how well has it gone if you have been moving people that need to be moved to safer ground?
The uniqueness of Lagos is that we have relief camps in the 3 senatorial districts. And again, the state has just donated a 144 units that cares for more than 10,000 IDP people. And we've carried out a lot of simulations exercises that we can evacuate anybody anywhere in the state. And it's simple. What we did is that, look, each local government, you have a directory of all the people that are vulnerable to flood. The handicap.
You've got that sector covered.
Definitely.
Well.
And we've done risk mapping, resource mapping, and we're on top of it.
That's how it is with you. You've always got so very much to share, and thank you very much for that. But we'll be right back. Mr. Mayakodumi will be right back after this break. Stay with us, please.
Lagos is the most visited state in Africa as the 5th largest economy on the continent. Covering the state and its government is no mean feat, it's a busy beat. We go beyond the curtain of tapes to travel in far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos state government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos shall be ours.
We tell you stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Back. And the point was made earlier by Mr. Desmond Majiakodini about all of us behaving, one, in consonance with the realities of climate change, deforestation being part of the reason for the silting up of natural waterways, and that's why there's this need to constantly be dredging so as to keep this equilibrium. And you've just said, just before we went away, that quite frankly, all other things considered, you're not unduly worried. In fact, you sort of, as you put it, they're doing their best in that regard. But also particularly that we have the Ministry of, the Humanitarian Affairs, we have the Environment Ministry, we have the Ministry of Water Resources. All of these have come together, perhaps in one of the most concerted ways since we've been. I'm not by this suggesting that in the past there wasn't quality attention paid to it, but this is quite concerted. You have all of these people, and we saw in that clip that we have there that government feels this is very much in hand.
Definitely. And that's the way to solve it, working better together. And while we are working together, roles and responsibilities are well defined. Sharing of information is very, very important.
Okay, so all of that is in
place. You can see in Lagos, Ministry of the Environment, making sure that there is always a weather forecast every day. You can see the road traffic radio alerting people where they need to park. And you can see that we have emergency number 112-767 that you can call us on our call center telling us the challenges that you are facing. You can see our ambulance positioned strategically all over the state. We are working with the building controlling agency. We are working with the planners. We are working with the local government chairman. So, to us, nobody in Lagos State should panic. What they just need to do is to abide with the rules and regulations.
And it's also important to say that not just in Lagos State, but other emergency managers in other states that are coastal, no doubt must also be taking cognizance of.
Definitely. And to realize that it's not about the state, it's about the people. And the impact is at the local government level. And they need to build the resilience from the local level.
Okay. Now, Mr. Majekodumi, I wanted to ask you the question, your evaluation of, given the facts that, look, climate change is with us. If you are sensitive to it, knowledgeable about it, the better for any such government or people who are responsible for this kind of thing. Now, we are already in climate change. As you said earlier, it's been with us for quite a while, and it does have its implications. What would be your evaluation as to the authorities' response to the phenomenon that we are calling climate change? You said that there is data, so if anybody cared enough, we could always look at patterns and that kind of a thing. So given all of that sort of analytical scientific approach, what would be your evaluation or assessment of the efforts of our people to, well, not exactly combat, but be ready and be able to accommodate climate change?
Unfortunately, we, like so many other people in the world, are just not being proactive enough. Look, in 2015, the Secretary General of the United Nations was addressing about 95% of global leaders in Paris, including our own president at that time. And he said to them, mankind is waging war against nature, and this is suicidal. He used that word, that we're behaving in a suicidal manner because nature always fights back. And she's doing so with more and more vigor. Okay, that was in 2015. So all the world leaders said, we have to reduce this pollution. And we have to plant millions of trees to absorb the CO2. Guess what? By 2022, the level of pollution around the planet's atmosphere had never, ever been so high, despite everybody agreeing to reduce it. And this is why he is now saying, look, we're rushing headlong to a catastrophic consequence, and our foot is still on the accelerator. Imagine that. You're in a vehicle heading towards a cliff. You know, maybe the bridge at the end of the road has broken. And they're warning you, that you drivers, you leaders, the bridge is broken. And guess what? For various considerations, economic considerations, and so on and so forth, you're still pressing the accelerator. You're not even slowing down the process. So it is very, very worrying. However, having said that, there are indications that this new regime, this new dispensation of leadership in Nigeria, look as if they're on track to trying to do the right thing by coalescing governments of Africa, particularly West Africa, to come together as one voice and speak to the Western world, who are the ones who were the major culprits. They're the ones who've been polluting the atmosphere all this time in the process of their so-called development. Although, again, you know, it's questionable if you can actually ascribe what we've been doing to that particular word development, because if in the process of what you're doing, you're actually wrecking your planet's life support systems, then it's questionable that actually you can call it development. Anyway, he is promoting it. Mr. President, even before he came into power, was promoting that we have to get together as one and speak with one voice to the northern and western nations and tell them collectively, yes, that we need funds. We need funds to adapt. Okay, massive adaptation programs, which, you know, we are involved in Lufasi and the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. We're now part of the Climate Change Commission. Massive adaptation programs, millions and millions of trees planted to stop the desert from moving in. Massive interventions along the river areas, the riverine areas, the slopelands. Again, nature. Plant many, many trees, do dredging upstream. Yes, we're doing dredging in Lagos. And also ensuring that people follow the regulations.
All right, then.
3 days ago, I was at...
One moment, Mr. Majekodumi. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but there's a caller on the line. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but there's a caller on the line and we're in danger of losing him. David, calling in from Mowe. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for holding on.
Thank you very much for allowing. I've been wanting to speak through your program for a long time. Thank you for the beautiful work you are doing.
Oh, you're very kind.
My questions, first is to Mr. Majekodumi.
Okay.
He has told us that because the earth is being, heat constantly, there's going to be, rain all over. Does it not negate the fact that there is deforestation all over the country that is resulting in the fight between, the farmers and herders? If more rain comes, is it not an advantage to us? How does that not contradict the fact that there is deforestation? That's number one. Then to our doctor, I don't expect a better presentation from him, especially as a civil servant. Over 15 years ago, for instance, when the doctor's quarters was on fire in Lagos, it was a private institution that brought the helicopter to rescue, people from the top of the building. And it was a contractor that supplied, the lift that took the firefighters to a very high place to put an end to the fire inferno. The question I want to ask is, what is the government doing? Say, for instance, Mushin and Idiaraba is always flooded. We don't need anybody to tell us that, look, government should do something about it. Day in, day out, year in, year out. If there's any little rain, for instance, the whole place is flooded.
Okay, I got you there. David, I got you there as it relates to the question you want to direct to Mr. Dr. Osanyintolu. But as for the question you directed to Mr. Majekodumi, did you say that how is the effect of the reforestation efforts not being negated by these floods and these rains? Did I get that right?
No, what I'm saying is that, all right, there is deforestation. And that is what, farmers, herders are coming, down south. They are looking for pasture. But he now says that there will be more rain. If there are more rain, for instance, resulting in flooding, Those
Okay.
rain will then not help to bring back the grasses that the herders are looking for.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much. I'm happy that we didn't lose you before you got your chance to talk. Mr. Mayakodumi, would you like to react to that contribution?
Yeah. So very quickly, I'm glad you caught the viewer, David. Yes. No, we need to address concerns. Yeah. Very, very good. I'm glad we caught him. Yes. Well, the thing about this climate change is that you could be having massive rain in one section of the country, and in the other section of the country, you might have no rain at all. And this is part of the problem that we're having in our northern area. The desert is moving in relentlessly because there's so little rain. And you see, it's the forests that actually will encourage the rain to come, because the trees have an incredible role to play. It's quite scientific, it's quite technical, but basically they absorb the water that falls. Where it falls, they now evaporate it through a process of transvaporation. It goes up in the atmosphere and the wind blows it and it falls again inland. But when you now remove those trees, then you break that cycle. And this is what we are doing as human beings, not just Nigerians, not just Lagosians. As human beings, we are abusing nature. We're disrupting the environment. And you see, we call it environment, but what it really is, the real description, it is our life support system. And we are disrupting it to an extent whereby we might not be able to stop the process of its deterioration if we continue this way. So we are encouraging massive reforestation and really protecting the forests that are there, and that is adhering to the laws.
Indeed.
It's all very well, you have a protected area and then people just pay small money and they come and cut the trees. Or like we have in some areas in Lekki at Okonaja, you have area where there should be no sand filling. This is mangrove, because nature, if with the mangrove, is using that to carry the flood water and even purify it and so on. And guess what? Okay. they're sand filling a place where they're not supposed to sand fill. Likewise, people should be admonished to throw rubbish into the drains. And I would advocate for more funding for LASEMA, particularly for their awareness programs. So
all right, then. Exactly.
Across to people.
Exactly. Okay, sir. Ada in Jos, good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you for holding on.
So just as you said, good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning to your guests there. I think we are not all that proactive, if you ask me. Now, I don't think we have dredged our major rivers enough, like Benue and River Niger. Then states prone to flooding, they should build buffer dams or retention basins to accommodate any surplus water coming from either the Lado dam from Cameroon or wherever. So since 2012, how many buffer dams have we constructed in Nigeria since 2012? Then another thing is states prone to flooding should have flood estates where people can move to. When you say people should move, it's not that easy. That's what is making people reluctant to move. Let them have an estate that is permanently built there, not waiting for a flood to come. If they have started building since that time, since 2012, they would have had a vast area carved out for it, and then they will go there as a kind of emergency. That's the way to go about it. Apart from sensitization, telling people not to cut trees and all that. But as much as I'm against their cutting trees, kerosene is so expensive, and most of the masses, that's what they use. They can't lay their hands on it. What do you expect? An angry man is a hungry man. So these are the things we should address squarely.
All right, then.
That's not give up Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in. Now, of course, you probably want to respond to that, but remember the question that I think it was David who asked the question both for Mr. Mayakodumi and...
yes, Mr. David was concerned that the private organization are working with us. It's part of our emergency structure that we put in place for us to be able to work with private organizations, for us to be able to work to have a clear risk mapping, risk analysis, and resource mapping of this of the state. And while roles and responsibility are well defined, government cannot do it alone. We have to ensure that we work with other key stakeholders. Disaster management is a multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholders, multi-jurisdiction. So we have to come together to solve this problem together. Like what we did when a 21-story building collapsed at Gerard, we worked with Julius Berger, we worked with Starberger, we worked with other private organizations.
Okay.
It's part of it. Now,
so it's not a defect.
It's not a defect at all.
It's the way it was structured.
It is the way it was structured.
The way Mr. David might have given the impression that how your capacity. What is it? After all, you were assisted from the outside, but
No.
this is what you just explained.
Yes.
Even though you people have monumental equipment of your own,
yes,
the very structure of the place
is
that
to
the
work together.
sector
Yes, the private sector can participate very well with us.
I know that there's more, but Mr. Ibrahim in Kaduna, good morning.
Now, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to your two guests.
Yeah.
Guys, very good, interesting topic that you brought to us this morning, Uncle Yori. You see, quite okay, what I could say yes is that yes, we as a people, we are offended nation, true. But what is coming up from your from all the guests, we offended the nation. Now, government has given us an advice, all the Cameroon, so they are going to open all their lockdown down. Fine. Government now, what is their plan? Look, we know that as human beings, we have a government in place that have the rules and regulations. By what? Giving us all those rules by orientating and advice. Advice alone is not enough. But we as the masses, we keep on doing what's right for us. But government will not relent on that. Let them keep on doing what they know best by using all media houses to speak to our people in their local language they understand. But we again, you as the people, the experts in position as well, like this Mr. I don't understand the name quite okay. He also have to do his own by also coming to the media and let us know what is going on to the nation. Yes. Now, worldwide, we have what we call environmental hazard. Every place today now have that effect. What are we going to do? Anytime that you see people raining falling, people will be going and dump something on the gutter, and all these things flowing direct to the river or to the ocean down there. But the effect is now what we are going to face today. Now, Nigeria, I want Nigeria government to take their post to do what? Start to let us have our own dam. Every state, every state, that have those big rivers, so that we use that one as a way of cultivating our own plants. Now we have food shortage every place. All these things will contribute together that will make us a great nation, not only in Africa, but the world at large. Finally, my advice is that this advice given to us is all going to go, is likely to give to everybody because it's encompassed to everyone. That this advice given to us earlier said, it will help us and help us another. The money keep on spending through NEMA is not going to go up for us. We are just wasting our own resources that we use to do other things. Now, let us use that money to build a dam that will help us to sustain and eradicate this thing once and for all, so that Cameroon will not be a threat for us. Raining that is a blessing will not be a threat because there is one added in our own Hausa language, so that Rua, Yaigara, we know that when one man also feels that late fella also think that water no get enemy. Anytime we say that we want to hot water, water will definitely hot water. We will not stay away from it. We are always together. Water is a blessing to us. Thank you very much. That is my own little advice. May God help us.
Indeed. Thank you very much. It wasn't very little, but it was quite important. Mr. Majekodumi, I wonder what you think of his submission that, well, you heard it. You heard it.
Water, you know, get enemy. Very, very, very relevant. The forces of nature are far, far, far greater than us, you know, and we need to learn to live in harmony. And this is the silver lining on what is actually a very extremely dark cloud. United Nations Secretary General doesn't make statements like that too easily unless he is convinced that he needs to do it. But I'm also very encouraged that Mr. President's attitude, even before he came in, seemed to be like, okay, we're going to come together as West Africans. We're going to come together and go to the rest of the industrialized world, the developed world, and say, look, we have to join hands. You people have to bring out funding in order that we can do what is necessary. And a lot of what is necessary is very easy for us to do. We can just plant millions and hundreds of millions of trees and protect those trees. And then we have to do the transition to cleaner energy systems. You know, the oil is too valuable to burn. You can get far more use from fossil oil than just burning it as a fuel. It's far, far better to use it in all its different manifestations, so long as you use it responsibly. When you turn it into plastic, make sure you don't just throw the plastic into the drains and so on. Otherwise, my dear brother in Lasema is going to get on your case and say, stop messing up our drains. Because, you see, we also need to, this aspect of it as well, do unto others as you have done unto yourself. So don't go and do something or make a decision that's going to affect a lot of people negatively, because it'll come back to you. God is not mocked. Whatsoever you sow, you reap. So sow the good thing into nature.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Majekodunmi, Mr. Desmond Majekodunmi. Thank you very much for making the time for us this morning. We've run out of time, but as always, we appreciate when you come on and talk to us about environmentalism and those things that we need to be aware of. Desmond Majekodunmi, environmentalist, chairman, Lekki State Urban Forest and Animal Shelter Initiative. Thank you very much once again. Okay then. Now, just as we go now, I thought I'd just some of the things that we observe in Lagos, that is in his preserve. I think there are communities in the Lekki axis, Ibeju, if I'm not wrong. No, maybe I should, where the ocean seems to be reclaiming some communities, and that was before anybody opened any dam. In brief, any kind of encouragement in terms of what can be done or what will be done for such communities?
Look at what is happening at Esiosa, local government. Okay. And again, look at what happened in Victoria Island and see what the state did. See the commitment the states put in place, and see what the activities that was done at that arena, and see how Bar Beach area, and see how we claim back Ahmadu Bello Street, the Victoria Island, and that environment. The state, Lagos State has done it before. We are ready to do it again. And that is why our Ministry of Environment and Waterfront, they are coming up with a people-oriented plan, and they are going to put in place. And it has to go through a lot of planning, positioning, and implement. But all hands, all hands are on deck. And we have already informed the people that are vulnerable to it.
Okay, Dr. Osonyitu, I was going to say we've got to go because I know there's an encyclopedia of knowledge.
This is life.
That you want to share with us.
This is safety.
However,
this is safety of life and property. We can't buy.
We still are constrained by time.
Oh
thank
my
you
God!
very much.
Time is important. But don't forget, emergency number of Lagos State is 112767. If you call us anytime, we are proud to manage the golden hour. We will be there for you.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Femi Okeosonyintolu for you, Permanent Secretary, Lasema. Appreciate your making time for us this morning.
Thanks.
And that's our program.
And don't forget,
please join us tomorrow for another edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
Me want to treat people anyhow. Imagine this officer. I will clear our life.
Don't cost.
Bruh, come on there. Size no matter. The biggest dragon for Westeros, then small picking face down, climb down, Formula 1, fear catch me.
He found the gold and asked her for just shaking me piece of the pie, and she killed him for it.
Obini.
No one tells a story like we do. Showmax, Africa's original streaming service.